Her story deals with a subculture of heavy metal music that some feel is sending a dangerous message to your kids.
The forces of evil on the dark side of devil right.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
And we just mix it up with hardcore and aggression and come out with something we think's an original sound.
Loud, fast, heavy, you know.
Well, what do you got?
What do you got?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Riff Worship, a podcast where we attempt to answer the hard-hitting questions like, why is Ohio part of the Midwest? I am one of the hosts, Justin Swindle, joined by Dylan Adams, always one of the co-hosts, and joined by maybe a secret fourth member of the Riff Worship team, Pat Fagan. Pat, nice to have you back on.
Happy to be here. Third time's a charm.
You've been on talking about Converge. What was Unearth? No, what was the first?
Bleeding Through and then
Bleeding
Converge.
Through.
Yep. No, I would have not been the guy for Unearth. The very educated man you had on was way more better at that than I could have ever been.
Owen.
Yeah. That guy, the science of a breakdown, I was like,
Chug.
Go Burr.
Chug it, dude.
Dylan, how have you been?
Fucking busy.
Yeah.
Christ. Real fucking busy. Buying houses is stupid. It wasn't this bad the last time. Shit is bonkers. Like attempting just to go, hey, realtor person, what do we need to do here? Oh, you need to be pre-approved for a pre-approval before you can get in. I was like, is this a Simpsons bit? Is this what this is? So other than that, not too bad. Not too fucking bad.
Are you going to get one of the horses to co-sign your lease?
Christ.
I love the mystery around your equestrian lifestyle. That just gets spoken about on this show in rumors and hushed tones and like I don't even know and I won't ask because I just love the allusions to it.
Who knows? It'll never ever be resolved.
What's the hoof guy? What's that job?
Oh, the guy that's the scraper?
No, the guy who's like, you see the YouTube videos are like, this here stallion's got a cyst and we got to sand it off. What's that?
I got no clue.
What's that profession called?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I know what you're referring to, but I don't know what that is.
That sounds like somebody who does that for a living. That sounds like something they would say.
I will say at one point, I had to help protect ivermectin by locking doors because people were fucking crazy and still are about it.
Yo!
One thing I will say is Dylan is a
COVID's
vegetarian.
not real.
Dylan's a vegetarian, and that may or may not be because he has to kill horses. Who knows?
What are they? They always got real goofy names like Spaceman Dandelion.
I've heard Don't Tell My Wife. I've heard like somebody's named it. My kid named this one, but the best one I've ever heard was Master of Puppets. That was literally a horse's name. I went, okay, all right. I'll give that one a pass. It
could have been fun and been like Pasture of Muppets, reverse the letters.
There you go.
Made it more equestrian.
Muppet horses. Anyway, today we are here to talk about Deadguy, Fixation on a Coworker. Pat, I'll start with you. How did you get into Deadguy or this album specifically?
Tale as old as time. Fucking take a drink. Got on LimeWire. Just started downloading stuff because Hatebreed's on Victory Records. Who else is on Victory Records? And then just go through the catalog and Deadguy came on and fucking 17-year-old Patrick was like, this is wild.
Dylan?
I believe I heard Deadguy. Don't want to say I got into them till much later, but I heard Deadguy for the first time. I read some interview with Jake Bannon from almost 20 years ago, and he talked about Rorschach. So I found the Rorschach compilation, got into that, and realized that Keith was also in Deadguy, and went, well, Rorschach's cool. This band has to sound similar, and listened to the record and went, that's pretty fucking cool, but couldn't find a copy of it anywhere. That was that era where I would want to own, physically own it immediately if I liked it, and it just kind of fell by the wayside. But thankfully, around my late 20s, I found it again and just like would go back every so often and listen to the record.
I don't think I listened to them until within the past few years. Like I in talking about various albums on the show, I have a affinity, a soft spot for fucking noisy metalcore, angular, mathy bullshit. But somehow my like starting point for that comes within like the next generation, like the Botch, the Coalesce, the Converge, and I wasn't really like aware of Deadguy as their predecessor, kind of, until I don't know, probably the last 5 or 6, 7 years, something like that, maybe around the time that they reunited. But we'll get into their story. The beginning of Deadguy kind of starts with 3 bands. One of them, as Dylan mentioned, is Rorschach. Rorschach is kind of the predecessor to Deadguy in this angular bullshit metalcore sound. But we are probably going to talk about fucking Rorschach at some point, so we'll not tell the whole tale. But Keith Huckins, the guitar player of Rorschach, eventually joins Deadguy. We'll get back to him later. One of the other bands is the band No Escape. Tim Singer, the surprise singer of Deadguy, was the vocalist of No Escape. He kind of felt like the Northeast scene of hardcore was like getting too rockish, too singy, and that's not really what he was into in hardcore, and he didn't feel like he could even do that kind of singy stuff, like Snapcase kind of. So he kind of felt pigeonholed by No Escape, and he wasn't really into it, so he kind of left that band. The third band is Lifetime, which was a fucking surprise to me because Lifetime and Deadguy sound very fucking different.
That was the one that kind of like I'd heard like rumblings of that, and I was like, I think I remember like hearing it or like reading somewhere like in passing, and I didn't think it was that Lifetime. I thought it was like a just like a band called Then I was like, well, New Jersey, no, it's probably that Lifetime, and that's just so interesting to me because if you listen to Lifetime, and I do, I like Lifetime. They're one of the bands that I think Tim would say is probably too singy for what he was wanting to do. Like you hear Lifetime, and Lifetime's a very like, oh no, please don't go type of band, right? And Deadguy's very like, oh, you're breaking up with me? No, fuck you. I'm breaking up with you. So just to see that come from Lifetime is just like a complete 180 for one of the guys in the band, but kind of like a nexus point for the other guy to be like, I don't want to do this. And the other guy's like, well, I don't really want to do this either. And they kind of go do something heavier.
There's been some great interviews with Tim Singer where he talks about kind of what was going on and what he didn't want to see with like No Escape, and he references a lot of the youth crew bands of what they became, and like I think Quicksand was referenced, Burn, bands of that nature that he kind of gave a pass to. He's like, but stuff other than that, kind of the bands that went away from that just got a little too much. He's like, I got tired of all like the Brotherhood shit and all of that. So let's form an anti-Brotherhood band in a very strange way. Yeah, I'm not familiar with No Escape or Lifetime at all, but based off of maybe what some of the interviews I watched with Tim was stating, I kind of get it.
Allow me to be that guy for a second. Have you ever heard Saves the Days or anything before Stay What You Are?
Yep.
Okay, you've heard Lifetime.
There we go.
And I'm saying that as a guy who like lives,
Sure.
I worship the first 3 Saves the Day records. I think they're incredible. But to say that they weren't in their infancy, a Lifetime inspired band would just it'd be a false thing to say. So yeah, it's, to me, that's just, I'm kind of surprised like you're not familiar with Lifetime even by like a glancing past just because of the group you run with. I think figured somebody be like, well, I don't like all, like the guys that, well, I got something in the car for the girls.
I only listened to No Escape for this episode. I think there's just something. Tim Singer says about himself, so I'm not like casting a dispersion. Tim says he kind of only knows one way to do vocals. And when you listen to No Escape, you're like, oh, this sounds like a Deadguy album, but like not exactly, just like a little different.
It's kind of like, in a weird way, it's like the hardcore Mike Patton. Like, you know it when you hear it kind of thing. Of just kind of like, he could be in a bunch of different bands that all collectively sound different, and I'm sure we'll get into that. And like, oh, this is a different sounding band. Like, oh, that's Tim.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you just know it. Yeah.
Going back to Lifetime, Chris Corvino played bass in Lifetime, and Dave Rosenberg, I think this is like very early in Lifetime's existence as a band, maybe even before they put out like a full LP. Dave Rosenberg, for a very short time, played the drums in Lifetime. Singer leaves No Escape, and he kind of starts college to get into graphic design. After he left No Escape, he wasn't really looking for any other bands. He didn't like go on some great hunt to continue his search for music. But just someday, walking around New Brunswick, New Jersey, he bumps into Dave Rosenberg. Like, I think quite literally, they like bump, like they're going opposite directions, and they like bump into each other. And Dave, I guess, recognizes Tim from being in the music scene, and is like, "Hey, why don't you should come hang out with Chris Corvino and me, and we'll like chill and listen to music and stuff." So through that hanging out, they of course talk about starting a band together, and that's kind of how Deadguy starts. I don't know, Chris. Doesn't really consider himself a guitarist, and I think even in interviews for like the Decibel Hall of Fame is like, yeah, Keith is better at guitar than I am. Maybe it's just because they didn't know anyone else that played guitar, but somehow Chris Corvino becomes the guitarist of Deadguy. At first the only guitarist, even though he was the bassist of Lifetime and just only considered himself a bassist.
Sometimes all you gotta do is know a guy. We've all been in bands where it's like, why is that guy in the band? Oh, he practiced. He's got a band. We practice.
He's got the house.
Yeah, he has a house.
Speaking of houses, Chris Corvino and Dave Rosenberg live in a house in New Jersey together with maybe up to 6 other people. One of these people,
who amongst us hasn't?
Right. Yeah, true. One of these people is Tim Nauman, who I don't know if he was a musician at all before this, but they were talking to Tim, their roommate, and told them that they needed a bassist for their band, and they just handed him a bass, and like they were like, "Hey, this is what we're playing on guitar," and Tim learns to play bass just for Deadguy, just to learn these songs.
The statement of how he was approached to join Deadguy is one of the best things from the documentary. It's like Chris approaches him, is like, hands him a bass. He's like, "All right, here you go. Do you know these parts?" Like, yeah. He's like, "Yeah." And 10 minutes later, I'm in Deadguy. Like, it's like fair fucking enough.
We could all be so lucky.
Some things about how Deadguy kind of shaped their sound and attitude towards this band. They were like disillusioned with how the hardcore scene seemed to be moving at the time, and they made a goal to be heavier, angry, and less predictable. There were a couple quotes that were, "Our whole goal when we started the band was to be as heavy and abrasive as fucking possible while still being musical." Chris Corvino said, "We wanted to appear to be the angriest band in the fucking world." Some of the stuff that like shaped their sound was Dave Rosenberg, the drummer, had grown up as a jazz drummer into high school, in high school, he got into hardcore and got into metal in college. And Chris Corvino also had some background in jazz.
Isn't that like such a wild, like dedicated thing?
Yes.
Because like we've all played in bands. Anyone listening to this knows that. I mean, we've all done it. And like, there are times where like you pull up to a gig and you see the other bands and you see the people who are there and you're setting up and you're like, oh, fucking people are going to hate this. And like, those end up being like some of the more fun shows for one reason or another, whether because you win over a few people or because you completely fall flat. And by the end of the song, you're playing to like the sound guy.
Right.
Like we've all had those hits, but to like make that like, to make the mission statement of your band pretty much like, oh, I bet everyone's going to hate this is like such a like, that's part of the reason like why I'm drawn to Deadguy as a project is just the like, well, we like it.
Right. Yeah.
And if you do, cool. But if you don't, whatever, you still have to watch us. You still have to sit through us.
Yeah. And I think that's a better, we've talked about it in other episodes too, where like the best approach to have as a musician would be fuck everybody else and just play what you want to hear. And if people are like into it, cool. Who cares? We dig this shit. Because I think what we'll learn throughout the discussion of Deadguy is that there's usually one of two things when it comes to playing in a band. You either really like all of the dudes you're in the band with, or you really like the music, and you don't necessarily ever really get both. Sometimes you do, but it's very clear that these guys really liked the message and the music that they were playing. I don't necessarily think they all enjoyed each other.
Yeah, you saying that's really made me think about some things. You said that, and I'm like, well, I've liked everybody I've been in bands with, and now I'm thinking if it's like the opposite of that, like if everyone's the asshole, then you're probably the asshole. But now I'm just like, well, if you like everybody probably doesn't like you. And now I'm just like, fuck, I should call Skipworth, see what he's up to. See what he's got going on.
I don't know about other areas of art, but a message that I send very fucking frequently in the Riff Worship group chat is that this was only made to piss people off. Like these musicians that made this only did this to make people angry. And I'm like, it is so fucking frequently that I think that it's crazy.
Swindle, you're never getting a Phoenix Buddies episode. So just like let it go. My God. It's never happening. You're never going to get it.
Who is the easiest crowd to piss off?
Hardcore kids.
Metalhead kids.
Dude, hardcore kids. Like
hardcore kids. Fucking case in point, I'm anti-Banana Man. I'll say it. Fucking stop acting like cops.
It's I have no discourse over that because I've been to so many shows that I've just been like, and the banana guy's here. It's like at this point it's like fuck.
I'm called me old fashioned or a purist, but I'm just like, hardcore's for anybody. It's not for everybody. So if you come in and like what makes you leave is because somebody was like, man, why you dressed like a dickhead? If that's what makes you leave, wait till the dude in carpenter jeans fucking slugs you in the back of the head. Like, then what are you gonna do? Like, yeah, bro. Very anti Banana Man. Pro ended on this.
Pro beating up Banana Man.
Some poor bastard's gonna watch this and is gonna go, oh, that's great, and get his shit rocked at some next show with some kid dressed like he works at the library.
Those are the guys you have to watch out for. Everyone who looks like they just got off their job, and you can tell what that job is. Like the guy who shows up in like his Mapco polo. And he's going off for the opener. Wait until the headliner starts playing.
This house that Chris Corvino, Dave Rosenberg, and Tim Nauman live in is where the first Deadguy show happens. It happens in the backyard of the house, and at some point, they move to the basement and start having basement shows, which we're all familiar with that. In 1994, Deadguy would release their first 7-inch called White Meat. It was released by Dada Records. This 7-inch and most of Deadguy's output would be recorded by Steve Evetts. They would record it at the Track East recording studio, which is a studio that Steve worked at. Steve Evetts was a bassist of a kind of cock rock band named American Angel. He also recorded Lifetime, which is why Deadguy went with him to record their shit. This 7-inch was 3 songs, but sometime after the 7-inch, Keith Huckins, as mentioned before, from Rorschach, would join the band. Tim and Keith had some history together. They knew each other somehow from being in this New Jersey scene or playing shows in New York or whatever. While Keith was in Rorschach, Tim and Keith had conversations with each other, trying to start bands, but it just didn't work out. After Keith quit Rorschach, Tim Singer gave him a copy of the demo or the 7-inch. Huckins liked it enough to go to a Deadguy show, and essentially at the show, told the band that he would be willing to join them and play guitar for them.
You gotta find your tribe, man. You gotta weirdos find weirdos, dude.
Yeah,
I love it.
A funny thing that I thought, was funny to note from the documentary was Keith had apparently tried out for the band Warzone before Deadguy, and the only reason he wasn't welcomed into the band is because he was wearing sneakers instead of combat boots to the tryout.
Well, I mean, it's all right, look, all right, Warzone. Can't argue. You know what I mean? It's Warzone.
Yeah.
The singer wore gloves. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He wore huge gloves. You're gonna show up in fucking what were probably LA Gears or high top Reeboks at the time, and expect those guys not to be what's this goof nugget doing? No matter how hard you shred. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was another kind of fashion faux pas statement made in the documentary.
Shorts?
I can't remember the band. Yes. There was a band that was being interviewed about how they had a rule that nobody's allowed to wear shorts on stage. They watched Deadguy. Keith is on his monitor, playing, just ripping shit. And the guy looks at his bandmate and goes, "That's the only band that's allowed to wear shorts."
Dude, when I saw them, everybody but Tim Singer shorts. and not only shorts, cargo shorts.
Of course. Absolutely.
When they were talking about that on the documentary, the guy was like, you know the shorts rule, right? In my head, I was like, I don't know the fucking shorts rule. What's the shorts rule?
Right.
There's a shorts rule.
Again, I came from the metal world where everybody had a pair of camo cargo shorts because of Slayer, Hatebreed, etc., etc.
I've played shorts at best shorts in every show that I've played in as a drummer. I fucking hate playing drums in jeans or whatever.
If we were on tour, I was wearing shorts.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to pack too many clothes.
Right.
If it was a show that we could drive to, I probably wore pants.
Mm. When Keith goes to meet up to basically find out if he was going to be in this band or not, he met everyone at this house, this giant house that half of the band, 3/4 of the band lived in at this point. And they started talking, and apparently at different points of the conversation, different people in the band just left the room and kind of left Keith and Tim to just talk. And it turned out that all these people went into different rooms in the house and just picked up the house phone from different rooms and talked to each other about whether this dude was going to be able to join the band or not.
Those guys are comedians.
Yeah.
That's the only way that flies. What were you guys doing? Oh, nothing. My mom called.
Yeah. Well, now the new thing is sitting there with your phone and you do
texting.
So you text and you look at the person you text to and you watch them get it, and then you watch you guys both laugh and the other person's what the fuck's going on? What are you doing? And then you find out that the text message was, "Hey man, when you see this, start laughing."
Even though Huckins joined the band a little bit later than everyone, he lived an hour away from, I guess, New Brunswick or wherever the fuck everyone else in this band lives. On days that they would have practice, Keith would get out of work. He would stop at a fucking fast food place, get dinner, and eat it on the way to practice, leave practice, and then go straight home and like go to bed at 1 or 2 a.m. And he did this for like a year or 2 years. Is crazy. Just I don't know, however many times, 2-3 times a week, however many times they practice, just getting straight out of work, going to practice, going home, and going to bed.
Dylan, I see you shaking your head. You did that shit too?
So I joined Anastasia, and they were based out of Clarksville years ago.
Oh,
And-
that's right.
Yep. And I would drive.
I'm reacting like that, everyone, because I'm from Clarksville.
I would drive from Portland to Clarksville once a week.
Right. I would drive from Clarksville to Bowling Green Wednesdays, and then another day we would decide
Ooh,
later on.
that's
I would drive. It's 62
terrible
miles flat. 62 miles flat. It was easy so long as Skip showed up at the Arby's and I met him halfway. But he didn't have a cell phone, so if he didn't show up, I would just have to wait 30 minutes. That was the rule. If you weren't there within 30 minutes of when I was supposed to meet you, I'm going home. Because you can't practice on a drummer. That's fucking weird. So I would drive from Clarksville to Bowling Green for practice, and then I would drive back, get to my Chinese food delivery job half an hour early so I could eat, and then work a shift and then work my 5 or 6 hour shift at the Chinese restaurant.
Fuck. I wouldn't. I never had to do that, and I would not fucking do that.
And that's why you are pro Banana Man, because you don't understand what it takes to be down for the core.
Right. I also have no opinions about Banana Man. I'm neither pro nor con.
I'm gonna get. I know you want to play. Ooh, I don't like this tightrope nonsense from you two cowards.
It seems like
Making-
such. Look, it just
Making
seems
me
like
out to be the bad guy.
it just seems like such a weird thing to.
That's how I know that. Like, oh, you know how I know you're still in your parents' insurance because this is something you're concerned with.
I've been absolutely fucking rocked at shows that I have not been in a fucking pit for. Just seeing someone in a banana suit has like no bearing on how much I enjoy the show, but I've taken lots of shots to the fucking head.
Dude,
Oh,
I mean, I saw Deicide a handful of weeks ago. Banana Man in the pit, like
damn
full on. Guy was in it. I was like, no matter what show I go to or what show I've been to, there is somebody, especially if it's a larger show like that, somebody's dressed as a banana. It just, it is. It's part of it.
I don't know
It's
how
like-
many shows I've been to where somebody's dressed as a banana.
Yeah, okay,
It's-
you want to know what our version, because we're old, our version of Banana Man was? Naked guy.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. Maybe fully naked, but I've definitely seen some guys very close to naked. Yeah.
Yep. Balls was hot.
Keith grew up listening to metal. So moving on in Deadguy and much of the sound that Rorschach had came from a person who was really inspired by Voivod trying to make kind of like hardcore mosh parts. That was much of the sound moving forward.
So I just did a huge dive on all the Voivod catalog, and those early records are as discordant and fucking crazy sounding as possible. His voice is very polarizing, just because it's not traditional. It's very Canadian sounding, but you know, the guitarist is not influenced by, at least to my ear, by any metal bands at all. It's all prog stuff. So like everything's a tritone or a dissonant chord or like,
Well, that makes
and
sense.
shit's right. And everything's kind of like off time. And there's these great things. I mean, there's a few tracks that not a traditional power chord is played in that band. And the fact that they kind of got lumped into thrash is really strange. I guess akin to how Deadguy is lumped in with hardcore. It's just it's very similar, but it's too different enough that you can go, there's the outlier.
Kind of like Atheist gets lumped in with death metal.
Correct. Yes. Or Cynic for that matter. Any of those two. Exactly. Same way.
But Keith does talk about Voivod a lot, even still. So they are like a big influence on him. And it gets mentioned a few times, not just by Keith, but also probably by Chris, how Keith's style of playing is a lot different than Chris's and kind of like presented an issue with Corvino. Once Keith joined the band, like all the parts that Keith brought to the table, like Chris kind of had to try to keep up or try to figure out what the fuck he was going to do with these parts.
Or does he?
Well, yeah, that's fair. There are a lot of parts on this record where they're kind of doing vastly different shit. There are different listing years in different places for the next Deadguy release. But either somewhere in very late 1994 or early 1995, they release Work Ethic, another 7-inch, which is another 3 songs. This one was recorded in September of 1994. It was Keith's first release. As mentioned before, it was also recorded by Steve Evetts at Track East. And it was released by Engine Records, which is a label that they won't have any more dealings with, but not by choice. Which brings us into kind of the preface to the album that we're talking about. Kind of to kick off this section of the conversation, there was a quote that Chris Corvino said that I thought was pretty interesting. By the time we got to Fixation, we were fascinated with what we might be able to accomplish by playing these noisy punk parts through a post and Justice for All metal-based sound. Take this car wreck idea and not restrict the sounds we wanted to put in there. The album, Fixation on a Coworker, also, like all the other stuff so far, recorded by Steve Evetts at Track East Studio. It was recorded in March 1995. Recorded and mixed in 7 days. Mastered by Alan Douches, who has mastered 10 million goddamn albums. Mastered everything. Everything I've ever listened to, this man's worked on.
The Injustice for All statement, because I've read that many times, but like the Injustice for All statement is so interesting because when the statement is made like post Injustice for All metal-based sound, it's like, so you wanted to sound like the Black Album? Because at that point you're like, because that's post that record.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't ever need to hear anybody ever do Nothing Else Matters done in a hardcore way. It just doesn't need to be fucking done. That song sucks eggs. Fuck. Like, but obviously, like Chris also mentions utilizing the Pantera guitar sound with the scooped mids and, you know, kind of this big and loud guitar sound for the record. They also mention a couple other bands, but apparently they called a producer of some other band that they were really influenced by to get a guitar sound. They called him. The guy steps out of a session, tells them to eat shit and figure it out themselves, which I thought was great. Like
they had Steve Albini's phone number. That's really cool.
And that would be a very fitting statement.
That would be a very fucking Steve Albini thing to do.
Eat shit, nerd.
Yeah. I got to button on my work suit.
I got to put
and
this
wear my
guitar.
You were going to say it too. Wear my guitar strap like a fucking goober.
Hey, look. Easy to dunk on him for his maybe commentary on things later in life, but dude's track record's pretty fucking wild.
Right.
And those shellac records are fucking incredible.
I agree. I mean, I would I think later in life he calmed down a lot. I think when in the 90s is when he made most of his dunkable statements.
Be wild, man.
Around the time of the recording of Fixation, Tim Nauman, not singer, has been still only playing bass for, I guess, 2 years at this point. He was starting to feel a little bit more confident about how he played, his abilities to play, but he still was feeling a lot of pressure going into the recording, especially because, like, spoiler, they kind of don't have any money for this recording session at this point. So he got his recording out of the way pretty early and was happy to have that pressure alleviated. An interesting thing about Tim's bass recording for this album was his bass apparently sucked. So he used Steve Evetts' bass that he had in the studio. This bass would be in the album Progression Through Unlearning by Snapcase, Calculating Infinity by Dillinger Escape Plan, Satisfaction is the Death of Desire by Hatebreed. Pat, that's for you. And The Big Dirty.
These first three are bangers.
And then The Big Dirty by Every Time I Die.
Mm-hmm. It's a late 70s Spectre bass, which is I hope he still has it at this point. But that is, if you've ever heard a Pantera record, that's the bass sound. Like, those basses cut through everything, much like on this record. It cuts through really well.
I cannot wait to talk about the bass on this record.
Oh, we'll get to it. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yep. The guitars, both, well, I don't know how many tracks they used, but all the guitars that were recorded for this album were recorded through the same amp they rented for this recording session, a Mesa Boogie Rectifier Deluxe Trimoverb. I personally thought that this was interesting that they used this specific amp, because in an interview that Keith did about Rorschach's record, their like only full length, he talked about how like he didn't like the person that recorded their shit and how that person got him to record his guitar parts through a Mesa Boogie amp instead of Keith's Marshall amp that he owned. So I just thought it was kind of weird that he was like, yeah, let's do another Mesa Boogie rectifier.
This was interesting to me because I cannot stand the way Mesa Boogie sound 9 times out of 10, because they just sound like a Mesa Boogie. No matter what you do to it, they just sound like a Mesa. So when I read this, I was furious.
2 things. All right. So this one is slightly different than I think what Pat and I might be the most familiar with, which is the dual rectifier, the traditional dual rectifier.
You're right.
So this is the Trimoverb, which means it does have a built-in reverb tank, but it's also like a 212 kind of combo, a really nice one.
Okay.
So it's probably a little punchier. And you're right. There's not a ton you can do the boogies. You either really like that sound or you don't. There's not a ton of mid-range. They have this great low-end kind of grunt to them. The only thing to really do to those to change the sound to get all of these different, you have to put a boost in the effects loop as well as in the front of the amp, and you have to put a gate in the loop. I had a vintage one for years, and like you could get it to sound really good, but it didn't have the versatility as say like a 5150 might, which those are far more versatile. You can do much more with them, but this album doesn't sound like a dual rec. It doesn't have that traditional kind of like grunt that those have. It actually sounds a little bit more common with like a maybe one of the higher end boogie amps, like the ones that the name of the amp is slipping me, but the one that like Hetfield used on like Puppets, or has a little bit more mid-range frequency to it.
Thank you for correcting that, because now I can't be mad about all the years I've been like with the guitar players like, don't get that. Please don't get that. And then they get a bunch of guitar pedals. I'm like, good fucking luck.
Also, how weird, to me at least, that they use the same amp for all the guitars. Like all the guitar tracks are making the exact same noise. Like, I think a lot of times people use different amps to like complement the other guitar players' sound, but for this album they were like, no, let's make it all sound the same, actually,
or at least different cabs, right? Maybe
right.
mic it a little bit differently. So
could have been mic'd differently. Also 2 different sounding guitarists as well. Playing like, Chris is very much kind of an off the cuff, very loose guitar player, whereas Keith is the metal guy, so tighter right hand, kind of tighter, more percussive sound. So you're still getting a lot of that, like tonally wise. Yeah, it sounds really similar. So it does sound like the same amp, but you can still hear the character from each guy playing. Like it's all there, and you can almost pinpoint like that's a Chris part and that's a Keith part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing about the recording of this album, they didn't really say if it was only for this record or if Steve did it every time they recorded, but apparently, at least in the recording of this album, Steve really pushed Tim's vocals, just trying to get him to do more and more intense takes. And apparently, Tim Singer passed out during one of the takes of Doom Patrol because of one of the screams. And I guess it was caught on microphone, on a hot mic. So Steve was like, oh, wait, what just happened?
That is apparently it's the take that's on the record.
Nice.
Like it's apparently that one, because after that you're like, yeah, we can't. He's down. But like Steve went full Ross Robinson, like just like fucking goading him into like all this shit, throwing shit at him like that. Steve's got a little Ross in him.
Dylan, I'm sure you've seen the Lamb of God documentary where
Machine shoving the mic in Randy's mouth,
where he makes him run around the block twice and then come in and do the long scream.
Yep.
Bastards.
Ran around the block. He's dying as he comes up the stairs, and he's just shoving this mic into the fucking do it. Great vocal take.
Yeah, rips.
Yep.
When Deadguy were recording this record, they had initially intended on releasing it through Engine Records, the company that had put out the Work Ethic EP, but Engine Records did not have the money. Apparently, after they had recorded the whole thing, they went to Engine to get the $6,000 they needed to pay Steve Evetts. Engine did not have this money. So they went to a really good friend who signed them a check for $6,000. Point blank. They just asked the guy they know for $6,000, and this guy gave them $6,000 fucking dollars so that they could pay Steve Evetts and also look for a record label. That's fucking crazy. I would never. I consider myself a great person. I'm never giving any motherfucker $6,000 for anything.
I don't have $6,000.
Right.
So this is $6,000 in 1995.
Right,
too.
right. That's even fucking crazy.
$1 million.
That is, and based off some of the conversations that the band had about signing to the label that ended up putting the record out and those dealings, I wonder if the friend got paid back.
I fucking hope so. I hope he got paid back 2025 money. 2026
$1 million.
Right. Yeah, apparently, according to the documentary, they still owe Victory money.
That's hilarious too. Like that is one of the funniest fucking things, that they still owe them money, and their last sound scan thing
2002
Keith has was for 2002. They sold a grand total of like 10,000 copies.
Right.
Yeah, that's so crazy because like that dude sold the catalog to Victory. So like it's like when my student loan got sold to another company. I was like, I don't know anything anymore. What are you talking about? You bought it? You fucking, why'd you do that? You fucking loser. I'm not paying you. I don't even know you.
I have the reissue of Fixation like right over here, and I don't think it's got like a Craft Recordings imprint on it, because that's who ended up like buying Victory years ago. I don't think it does. I don't know if the band actually.
I'd have to look. Mine's back there as well, because I have a reissue. I wasn't able to score. I wasn't paying Discog price for the.
Nah.
Yeah,
right.
It's not happening. But yeah, I don't think it has it on there either.
I think you're right. So fuck them.
As mentioned, Deadguy goes record label shopping. They didn't mention how many other record labels they went to, but they had been working with Victory Records at least a little bit. Victory had been distributing their first EP, so they had some kind of working relationship, and that is what led Deadguy to signing to Victory Records. And also, as an aside, because Steve Evetts recorded Fixation on a Coworker and Deadguy signed to Victory, Steve would then go on to record 15 albums that were released by Victory Records.
It's all you know, man. Get that check.
Yeah.
Hey, get
Get
that
that Tony
Bulldog money.
Victory check.
Even if it bounces, you still got it.
They
It's
might.
It's very likely.
A souvenir.
I've talked to some guys from some bands who are on there. Some of them are real big fans of Hawthorne Heights, tell you that much.
Ooh, right.
Yeah, they got when Hawthorne Heights, a band that will remain nameless but rhymes with Hiv Honor. I'm friends with, and I remember hanging out with those guys after Hawthorne Heights were hitting it big, and they were like, best thing never happened to us. They were like, Hawthorne Heights selling 1 million records, the best thing never happened to us.
Sometime later, Engine Records would get back to Deadguy and be like, hey, we've got the money now. But Deadguy would be like, Deadguy had to say that, like, we've already made a record. We already got a record label to release this album. So, like, we don't need your money anymore. And I guess they had to get out of their contract with Engine, which seems so fucking weird and shady. But they signed the rights to the Work Ethic EP to Engine so that they could go forward with, Deadguy could go forward with their deal with Victory Records. And Victory would release Fixation on a Coworker in November of 1995.
We're obviously going to talk about this, but I'm already awaiting the conversation of, like, the record's released in November, but what transpires for a quarter of a year before that record comes out is one of the, like,
August.
One of the most, like, just disorganized, hilarious, like, Monty Python-esque silly shit that could go on. And, like, it's happened to so many bands we've talked about on here. We've made the joke in the Riff Worship chat where, like, most of the bands Swindle will pick have all had something terrible happen on tour or with a van, and it's like, band's done, and I can't fucking wait. This is great.
This is to do with kind of the art and lyrical themes of the album. Around the time of the recording and writing of this record, most or all of the members of the bands were reaching that point in life where you gotta, like, kind of find your first serious job, or some of them are kind of juggling a job while going to college and also trying to be in a band. Tim, I think, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, he's finished college as a graphic designer and starts a job at a graphic design firm. Kind of anger about this time of life and anxiety is what shapes most of the lyrical content of this band, and kind of like a general anti-authoritarian attitude. Along with the lyrics, the name of the record itself would be reflected in this. They got the name of the album, Fixation on a Coworker, from a docudrama workplace docudrama about stalking. Some of the proposed names for this album, other than Fixation on a Coworker, were Johnny Dangerously, Sophomore Jinx, and Red Menace.
This is what happens when everybody in your band is funny. You know what I mean? Like, you get that kind of shit because it goes back to, like, wouldn't it be really, hey, people would be really mad if we called this Johnny, if we called our first full, like, Sophomore Jinx.
Johnny Dangerously.
People would be real mad about that, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
The fact that the band's name is taken from a John Candy line in one of his last films. The fact that basically, like, Dave and Chris are fans of shitty TV from the 90s, and they see a Dateline thing. They're like, there it is. just like, fuck, come on.
And it's not like, again, like I'll talk about it a couple times because like I saw them recently, so there's some recency bias to this. Is like watching them interact with each other while they're setting up was just kind of like, oh, I've seen this a million times with my friends, like they were hiding stuff from each other. Like it looked like it was just like like the drummer was very like putting his drum, setting everything up. Meanwhile, like the two guitar players are like kind of fucking with each other. Like one of them's fucking with the crowd. Like they just look like a bunch of goofballs. And like that's so refreshing to me because Tim is a very intense frontman. Like I'm sure we'll talk about it, but like Tim as a presence on stage is very, very intense. But the time between like them walking on stage and like the music starting, you could play fucking Benny Hill music over it and it would completely fucking fit. Like that was almost as fun as the show is like watching these 5 guys goof off and just have like a blast with each other. And then like, oh, I guess we'll play our songs now. Like why this album, I was so pumped to talk about this album is because I'm going to be very selfish on this one because you guys invited me and this is like this is a top 5 record for me, top 3 depending on the day. I worked a very shitty call center job. And not only was it shitty, I had to drive an hour to it.
Oh.
So I was getting up at 4:30 a.m., putting this on blast, and then driving to my call center desk job. So I'm sitting there with like this music in my head of just kind of like going into every day like, fuck this, fuck them, not gonna fucking change me. Fucking take your fucking KPIs and shove them up your butt. And like I fucking hated that job. You know what I mean? But like without that job, like without this music, without this album, I could not have made it through that job. And like without that job, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I had to I was able to take this very singular experience that like, you don't hear a lot of bands be like, you ever work in a cubicle farm?
Right.
Oh.
And you're like, no. And then I was like, yeah, I work in a cubicle farm. Tim's just like me. I work in a cubicle. I've been in an elevator with guys in suits. Yeah. Dude's wearing dress shoes to make phone calls. Yeah, I've done it. And so like this album it helped me take that experience and help me realize that like, yeah, this thing blows, but it's not a hurdle. Like it can be a launch pad to like something else. Right. And like, so that's why when you guys mentioned this album, I was like, please, man, like I have like a through line of like almost like a weird parasocial like Tim sees me like kind of reaction to this album. So like I can't wait to get into it deeper.
There's a great live Mastodon set from I think it was one of the Hellfest. They're playing their track Workhorse, old track, and like Brent just hits the mic, goes, "This song's about work and work fucking sucks," and just kicks right into it. I'm like, okay, like I'm good. And it's called Workhorse, so there's the tie-in because we're beating it to death.
Tim designed a lot of the stuff for this band. Chris Corvino specifically helped design the record cover and I think the Deadguy logo for the cover of this album. Singer, as I mentioned, had gone to school for graphic design, had a background in it. Because of this, I don't know for how long of the existence of the band, if it was just for like the first year or some amount of time, they had a new run of shirts for every single show they fucking played. Which is
where's that Depop store? Where's that ding dong trying to sell them shits for $100 a pop on like some Walmart Hanes t-shirts you can see through? Deadguy, New Jersey, 1997. Come get it.
There was I think my favorite one that I saw from the documentary was like it said like Deadguy Bites and it was like Dracula.
Yes.
I thought that one was really fucking cool. Singer, I guess probably at the beginning of this band, sold almost all of his record collection so that he could buy a silk screening press so that he could make merch for this band. There's a quote from Chris Corvino about like how they went about designing the booklet and all the imagery for this album, we used to go to garage sales and buy any stupid book that might have a picture or a weird phrase in it. We would just pull from anywhere. There was a big graphic and quasi-literary explosion in underground music back then with a lot of stream of consciousness and non-sequitur stuff. We were trying to subvert a couple of things. We didn't want varsity letters with the singer pointing, which some of us were partly to blame for with some of the bands we were in. He was talking about himself. We also want to get away from the earache, I can't read this, but I know it's satanic thing.
If there are two types of people, if they ask you to move, you say no. One is a graphic designer, and the other is a musician. Never offer to help those kinds of guys move. I love Matt to death, but the amount of boxes that look light until you pick them up, and you're like, why do you have every other encyclopedia, National Geographic from 1993? And he's like, oh, there's a sweet robot in this one. And I'm like, this one, in this box of books, there's one cool robot.
Yeah.
All right. But I'm over here like, no, I need 6 bass guitars. What if 5 of them don't work one time? Like, I get it.
Tim Singer talked about how he pretty much worked on the graphic design of this record for like 2 months straight. And when at some point when he would think about this album just in general, he would always think about the just that part of it, just not even like the writing or like practices or whatever. He would only think about the designing the cover and the designing the book that went along with this. Before we get into what we think about our notes about this record, there were a few notes from like the Decibel Hall of Fame, because in the Decibel Hall of Fame, they go through like track by track.
Sure.
Like about what each song was about or notes from like what inspired the song. There were a few things that I took note of. Doom Patrol, named after the comic book of the same name. Pins and Needles. I think Chris Corvino was inspired by the song Sabotage by Beastie Boys, and this was his take of that riff. That was also the first song that Keith Huckins played with Deadguy, and when he played that song with them, that's when he like knew that it was going to be a cool band to be in. Speaking as Pat just did about just a cool picture in an encyclopedia, the song Makeshift Atom Smasher, the title came from literally that. There was a picture
shit, I didn't catch that.
There was a picture of the first Atom Smasher in an encyclopedia, and that's what they named that song after. Riot Stairs. Dave Rosenberg, the drummer, noted that this was part of the song was inspired by Rush, but the production of it was just too muddy and it didn't come off that way. But just kind of funny that it was a Rush song essentially that inspired them for that. And now our notes. What did y'all think about this record?
Pat, you are the guest.
Okay, all right. What if Ted? Hear me out, guys. All right. I'm going to try to describe. If there's someone who hasn't listened to this album, first off, you're living a bad life. You're making wrong decisions. Okay. If I have to, I'm going to describe what Deadguy sounds like to me, and take this in the spirit of which I am conveying it to you, my friends. Did you ever wonder what would happen if Ted Kaczynski joined Black Flag?
I didn't. I hadn't, but I do now.
That thought's there now.
What if Ted Kaczynski was like, you know what, these bombs, I got a message, but I'm not really into all this bombing. I'm not really into the methods. What if my method of destruction, hey guys, we're having a good time, is I'm going to join a band? Because that's what I hear when I hear this album. To me, I know they lean in, they have like, this is where we have metal influences. To me, this is more Black Flag, and maybe it's just Singer's performance to me than it is like metalcore or like hardcore at the time. To me, this is like It's so much more. It's so much when you actually listen to it, it's a lot more straightforward the more you listen to it than the first time you hear the things. And I think that's like it is chaotic in the way that it's played, but in the way this stuff is structured, it is people always like throw away like, oh, grindcore is organized chaos. Yeah, sure. But like to me, like whether the intention of the band was to be as cohesive of a unit and write songs as strong and structurally tight as they were, I don't know. But like to me, like it is chaotic. It is a little bit off time, but it is so much more straight down the middle driving than I think people really give this album credit.
There are definitely songs like Doom Patrol is only 3 parts. There are definitely songs that like there are only 3 or 4 parts for. The Crazy Eddie is 1 part for. It's a 5-minute song and it's 1 part for half the fucking song. And then that part even comes back at the end of the song.
Yep.
There are definitely songs that it's like very straightforward. There are songs also that are like, we're getting wacky for this one.
To what Pat said, the kind of later era Black Flag thing is all over this.
Yeah.
The My War, slip it in.
Yes, absolutely.
What's the other one? Oh, I wrote it down. I want to make sure I cover it. Because I when I hear this album, to me, it's way more Loose Nut, My War, Slip It In. Those are the ones that I think of. And the Family Man for fucking sure.
Yep.
But some of the more like Tim's just doing the like talking at you thing that I think a lot of people might not connect if you came from a more metal background, that stuff's probably really lost on you. But if you come from like a hardcore and punk background, I think you're more inclined to hear that than you are the Metallica influence.
There's definitely a lot of that era Black Flag on here, but there's also I completely agree to what Pat said as well about it being more straightforward, more driving than you really realize, because upon coming back and listening to this for the first time in a few years, we've definitely listened and talked about albums that are in this same area of this kind of metalcore umbrella that are far more just chaotic and noisy. This is almost like ground zero for that, right? Like this is the template basically, like, okay, expand from that. That's not a negative slight. This is a much more palatable version of that without it being just like spoon feeding you, whatever it is. It's not trash by any means. It's like, oh, these guys definitely wanted to make sure everything was tight and everything had a purpose. And even with some of the tracks that get a little bit more epic, for lack of a better word, like The Extremist or Crazy Eddie, like as Swindle said, 1 part, but it just kind of varies slightly from that 1 part a little bit. Like, I look at a track like Baby Arm that has a very like amphetamine reptile kind of band intro. Like the guys have mentioned Today Is the Day. We referenced Steve Austin, Unsane, bands of that nature, there's equal parts that, but there's also equal parts like, Die With Your Mask On, having like Human Remains and Rippy Corpse influences to it. Totally. Like Jersey guys all the way around. There's death metal parts on this record as well. Not much, but there's a couple little sections here and there that are like total death metal sections. These guys definitely grew up listening to like, probably Keith in particular, definitely listened to that first wave of death metal, i.e. somebody's got an Immolation record. Someone's listening to Suffocation or something along those lines, Deicide, whichever. But there's also more progressive leaning moments in here. The drum performance on this entire record is fucking second to none. That is the first thing that caught me. Dave is an exceptional fucking drummer.
You mentioned the drumming and the bass, and like I go back to like what you guys say about how like this is like Tim's first real playing bass in a band.
Mm-hmm.
And
can't tell.
And this is, well, see, here you can't tell, right? But I also think, and this is not a slight to his playing ability at all, is because there are bassists who are in the band because they know a guy.
Yeah,
sure.
And they play like that.
Right. Yeah.
They play the whole notes and they just hang out. You know what I mean? I honestly think that if Tim was a better bass player or had been playing bass longer, it would have been to the detriment of this record, because he maybe, based on his capabilities at the time, only knew how to sit back and play the backing bass. But by doing that, he makes the drums sound so much tighter, because they are a unit this entire record. I mean, you said Die With Your Mask On. That the bass and drums on that song are so insanely tight. And like, I know the guitar players are loosey goosey on this one, but like the drums and the bass throughout this entire record are like tighter than a dolphin's butthole. And I honestly think that like if Tim had been playing bass longer or had been more, say, confident in his abilities, I think it would have been to the detriment of this record as far as the low end, the drum and bass, because it just holds that there. He's never off time. Like, I've listened to this, like I've studied this album, and he is in there. And whether that is because he's Dylan, you've been there, we were like, for whatever reason, I can only nail this if I'm staring at you. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, I just feel like this, and I probably not, but like, I just feel like they recorded this with him just like sweating bullets, just like, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up. Just like staring, the drummer and the bass player just staring at each other. And I love that about this.
I feel like maybe the most recognizable part of the album is in Riot Stairs, and it's just when it's fucking drums and bass locked on, and you just know, to Pat, to your point about like if Tim had been playing longer, you all know that he would have tried to busy that part up, like make it something different. But I think maybe his being like uncomfortable or feeling pressure, he's just like, I'm just gonna sit back and play like the one note, just like digga 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 digga.
Now,
digga,
because
digga.
you said Riot Stairs, I'm gonna bring this up at the 302 mark. Okay. Okay. At the 302 mark, there's a riff that I'm like, is that Unsung by Helmet?
Oh,
Is that Unsung by Helmet? Now, Helmet, that album came out, I believe, 92. So
You're
maybe.
right.
And if there's any, hardcore, hardcore, it's like, there's only so many 4 on the floors. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, I heard that and I was like, man, that's real close.
Yeah. That track, talking about that in particular, that whole section where it's kind of like this kind of Slayer-esque thing, where it just builds. The guitar, one guitar comes in, then the other one comes in, then the whole band's in, is fucking exceptional. But I want to say about Tim's bass playing, and then we can kind of move on to this, because we're all 3 bass players in here, and like we could go on this note for hours. Tim's playing very fundamental. It's also catchy and fucking interesting.
Yeah,
but it's also because he has no rule book, right? That's from the benefit of not really playing bass. He's got no rule book, so he's just playing purely like, this sounds cool and it fits. Let's do this. And I'm sure the other guys are like, yeah, that works really well. I can do this chaotic noise here. Keith can do this chaotic noise here, because when we get to the guitars, there are points on this record where they're locked in. They're playing exactly the same part, and it adds a weight and thickness to it. But there are also more points in this record where Keith is playing something, and then Chris is playing like not a counter melody, but a counterpoint part to that, because neither of those guys play the same way. And as we mentioned before, Chris has already stated that Keith is a much better guitarist than him. And I think that comes with the benefit of going, I can't play exactly what he's playing. That adds to the overall character of this record and this band, with being, there are a few bands from Jersey throughout the years, like especially from like this era, that will play different things entirely. It's just Jersey bands that kind of do that. Like, one guy's playing, a chromatic chord progression, and the other guy's like off the fucking wall doing shit. And it still fits, because it's kind of, none of this stuff really has harmony on it on this record. It's all just like a tonal reference, right? They're all like, this is in the key of D sharp.
Do you think they could tell you that?
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
They're like, oh yeah. And like in my notes, I put, neither of these guys know what the other one is playing. Like, they have no idea how to play the other guitar player's parts.
It's that thing of like, oh, he can't come to the show. Well, do you know those parts? No.
It's just going to be empty for a little while.
That's just going to, I don't know. Why don't you yell something? Play a hi-hat.
I was going to say on Makeshift Atom Smasher. Right. That intro riff The harmonic riff is one of the coolest things on the record, but also adding to maybe what's to come with the other portion of this band that with the album that they put out. You've got a lot of early Neurosis influence on that with Souls at Zero, Enemy of the Sun era of that band with like these weirdly chaotic kind of harmonics and this scary vibe to it.
How much of that do you think was one guy going like stepping too close to something and it making a noise and everyone kind of going like,
you did what?
Like, you do that again? And he's like, let me try. And like, it's just because like you said, like they've openly, you know, one guitar player is more, I don't want to say more capable musician, but like is a better guitar player than the other. And it just seems like everyone in this band is at a different level of mastery of their instrument.
Yeah,
sure.
That like, they're not the best at what they do, but they're the best at that in the band. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that one of the guitar players could pick up the bass and figure out Deadguy songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like, I don't think that, like I said, the guitar player is not going to play the guitar player's part.
Sure.
No one's hitting a trained jazz musician drummer parts. And there's nobody on earth who hates cubicle or industrial farming more than Tim. So he can't, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like this perfect mash of goofballs that just made this incredible thing.
I was wondering about Makeshift Atom Smasher, other than the harmonic riff, how that song even came together. Because other than the harmonic riff, it's like a beat.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But otherwise, it's just noise. There's no. It
reminded me of like the weird Black Flag stuff.
Yeah.
The ones where like Greg Ginn is like Ginn or however you say it. I don't know. Where he's just like doing a harmonic for fucking whatever. And the drummer's like, I mean, I fucking guess. I can't argue with him. He owns the rights to the band. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what when I hear that kind of stuff, I'm just kind of like, man, so much of this is by mistake. It has to be.
Yeah.
Or they're all geniuses and they're hiding it.
It's definitely loose.
It's totally just dudes in a room. Just playing off of each other. Like, what'd you do there? Don't know. Do it again. Do that for like 30 seconds.
In The Extremist, I laughed out loud today because I had earbuds in, and there's a part, I think it's like at the 230, I marked it, 237. There's like a chug, one guy's chugging, playing like a chuggy, like kind of riff. And then for whatever fucking reason, it happens one time. Somebody does the tail end of the guitar solo from Hotel California. Like, there's a chugging part, and then he's like, wow. And then it just like goes back and he never does it again. And I heard that and I was like, that's one of those things that somebody did and they're like, we're keeping that, right? And they're like, fucking, I don't want to argue with you. Yeah, it's in there. It's there.
I was maybe it's the same part. I was very surprised to hear pretty much 2/3 of the way through that song there was chorus on one of the guitars.
Yes.
It was so fucking weird to just out of fucking nowhere.
Because he stepped on it on accident.
I wondered if it was part of the amp, like because it's a electro verb fucking whatever wanker bullshit amp. I was like they had to hit the knob or something. I don't know.
Nah, man. It's they got one of the first Line 6 Spider 2s.
Right, yeah.
And they hit that fucking knob and they're like, it's there.
Hey man, we're getting money's worth out of this thing.
Like, and to be fair, I don't think there's a ton of effect use on here, and what I say about that is there's a track on the back end of the record, and that being Riot Stairs, that there are some whammy-esque sounds that absolutely are not done with a whammy bar or a pedal of any sort.
You think it's like the neck bend?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Certainly.
either that or they're just doing whatever they can to make that sound. There's points on this record, and I can't quite remember what track it is, that it sounds like they're doing the Paul Gilbert shit with the drill on the strings, where it's just like cycling through on the, like just making whatever fucking noise. Who's the band that used the laser gun at one point into the pickups? Like, I've heard that.
Muse?
No, like this was like
Cave-In.
a hardcore band.
Cave-In.
That's it. Yes.
Oh
Yep.
man. Okay, so you talked about you threw Cave-In out there.
Mhm.
Cave-In owes their entire career to the intro to Baby Arm. Cave-In owns their entire career to the bouncy part on Baby Arm, because it's a breakdown.
Yep.
But it's not played with the China. It's not on the China. It's on the snare and the hi-hat. And like, I know it's kind of anachronistic to be like, oh, that's a Cave-In part, but like, you hear little things like that, and you're like, oh, in the same way that Every Time I Die kind of owes their entire career to Cave-In's Juggernaut, I would say that Cave-In owes like a lot of their career, whether, by intentional or not, to bands like Cave-In, or I'm sorry, to bands like Deadguy, probably Starkweather, Converge, obviously. But like, again, where does it all start? Where's a lot of that stuff start?
Right here.
These 10 songs right here.
It's a really fucking great record. Are there some things on here for sure that I'd go, let's cut that down a little bit? Like, I got to be the contrarian. Like, Crazy Eddie doesn't need to be 6 minutes long.
But it's crazy.
What I do like
isn't that crazy?
I like the gap of absolute silence for
Halfway
like 12 seconds.
Yeah.
My
Just
note here says, how many times did you think that song was over?
At least 3.
Yeah. Because I had it on my phone and I was walking, I was like, wait, what? No, it's not 6 minutes. Oh, it's a secret song, I guess. And then I was like, oh no, I forgot. This is a long song.
And I will say The Extremist, and the band has even said like it's one of the oldest songs that they have. It didn't do a whole lot for me. Like, those are my 2 gripes and complaints about this record. Everything else, tonally, structurally, musically, makes total sense and actually, piques every bit of interest I have.
That The Extremist has like some of the few bits of production trickery in it. It does like the Stepping Stone Minor Threat kind of thing, where it's like super lo-fi, maybe only in like one headphone until like halfway through the song, and then it's like just blast your ears out of the fucking headphones.
I liked, I forget which one of you guys mentioned it, but one of you were like, I wonder how many guitar tracks there are on this thing.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting because like there are parts where like they do a lot of really neat stuff with panning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That a lot of bands at the time weren't. A lot of bands were just kind of like guitar here, double them, bass in the middle, drums, pan them like you would if you were watching the band facing them, right? But like there's a lot of like I don't want to say, maybe like the nuance or like the wheedle parts or like the wee, like a lot of that stuff, like just the notes where it's just kind of like there's not a lot of dead space on this album. So like in between like the chugs and stuff, it's either feedback or like somebody noodling for a little bit. It's tasteful. It's not like the stuff you see like people are doing now. Like those parts are like panned in a way to where like they are not muddied up or lost in the mix. Like you hear it. It's like, if we played it, we want you to hear it. Did we play it on purpose? You decide.
But we do want you to hear it.
And that's a credit owed to Steve.
Yeah.
In his production styling of just knowing, like, being very familiar with this style of music and working with a lot of the up and coming bands and being familiar with these guys as well, and going, okay, they want this to be the best thing they've ever done. It's coming out on Victory. Like, let's see, all hands on deck kind of thing. And yeah, everything is mixed in such a way that you can hear every single bit. Everything makes sense, right? Everything makes sense about where it's placed and how it's placed. And for a group of guys that do all kind of feel and speak like, oh yeah, it's just kind of this thing we did. There's so much focus and so much structure actually put into what this thing needs to sound like.
Like, I could go on for hours and hours about like how incredible I think this album is and how I think it's the blueprint for so much stuff that came afterward that extrapolated on it for better or for worse, to better or worse results. To what end? You know what I mean? Like, Deadguy is one of those bands where, like, kind of in the same way that I look at like Poison the Well, when I look at like Opposite of December, is like bands can't. I love Deadguy. I don't really like a lot of bands that try to sound like Deadguy, because it just comes across as like, oh, you're just doing Deadguy. I'll just listen to Deadguy. And like those early Poison the Well records, you're just kind of like, yeah, there's just something about the way those guys play guitar that like you can't. They just have those are weirdos. Like the way they have found a way to make the heaviest music, but also some of the most like melodic stuff. Like it's just you're either of that brain space or you're not, and it's going to come across as less than for better for just how it works. But I think that like one thing on this album that is just untouchable, and I'm a lyrics guy. I know that Dylan, I know you're not, right?
Mhm.
You're not
Correct.
really a lyrics dude. Like, and I've talked about it when I was on the Bleeding Through episode, is that I think what sets this type of music apart with this band specifically is you hear every single thing Tim is saying.
Yeah.
Like you hear all of it. Like those vocals are very like they are just, I don't want to say barking, but like he is yelling at you. He is letting you know exactly like I'm talking now and you're gonna listen. And like you don't, with this type of music, you either get the or that you get the, and then you borderline on the sassy shit, right? Which I'm guilty of. I like it. And like that, I think if you just heard the music of this, I don't think you would think that this is what the vocals for this album are going to be.
Sure.
And I think that's like what really, really sets it apart from a lot of the stuff, especially at this time. Like he said, the singy, like one crew, me and you, like it's just also like the lyrics are just fucking biting.
Tim definitely had a knack for like, well, not being very poetic, but in like a good way. Like
Right.
it's very direct and to the point and not flowery, not not heavy on metaphor. Like when he says something, like what the fuck he means by it.
You can't kill yourself. You're already dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Stop
Yes.
staring at my back.
Dude, all right. I went and saw them.
Yeah.
I was a nuisance. In case anyone from Asheville, North Carolina stumbles upon this, because they got their Google alert set up for Deadguy, and they see this, I apologize. Two people specifically, the gentleman with the dreadlocks and the Tolkien back patch. You weren't ready for me to jump on your back and start yelling, "You can't kill yourself if you're already dead." I apologize. Then also want to apologize to the guy with the amoebics back patch who was not at all prepared when I needed to tell Tim that I also wanted someone to get their eyes off my back. It was just like it's just Tim, like I went and saw them with Napalm Death.
Sure.
And if you've ever seen Napalm Death, that's an everybody band. There's going to be all kinds. You're going to have your metal kids, your punk kids, your
Crusties.
hardcore kids. The amount of, I forgot. Did you guys tour? Did you guys remember that? I've completely forgotten how crusty Asheville, North Carolina was.
I've never been.
I completely forgot. It makes sense. It's in the mountains. It makes sense.
Right.
I was not prepared for my olfactories were not prepared for that. Also, crust punk ladies, just letting them out now, boys. The world's changed. The amount of chicks in Discharge shirts that you only know it's Discharge because you recognize the logo on the bottom of the shirt. Letting them breathe. To that I say thank you. But to get back to what I was saying, like if this band comes near you, you gotta go because it's probably not going to happen for a while if it ever happens again. I planned an entire vacation around going to see them, and the vacation I'd originally planned had me seeing them 2 days in a row, but things happen, so I can only see them once. And like it was just, I'm 40. I don't really get like pumped or what mosh retirement is the cool kid term. I don't really do that. But like this band, I was like, I don't care. I'm putting my knee brace on. I'm rocking and rolling. And to if you guys will indulge me, I go see them. I believe Chris is the bald gentleman. Am I right? Is that Keith?
It's Keith.
Okay.
Yep.
So Keith is the bald gentleman. Keith comes on stage, 2 knee braces.
Hell yeah.
I go to pick up some shirts, buy some merch. He's hanging out. And I was like, I'm not a punisher. I pride myself on not punishing people. I was like, hey man, really, thank you guys for playing this show. Really appreciate it. It's been I've been wanting to see you guys for a really long time. Also, Thanks for holding it down for the crippled kids. And then me and him had like a 10-minute conversation about like knee surgery recovery. So like they say don't meet your heroes. Sometimes, all right.
Yeah.
Find common ground.
That's
not every conversation's got to be about music. Sometimes you're just kind of like, hey man, is that it's a cool knee brace? You wear like a cuff underneath, or you just go straight skin to brace? How you doing on that?
That's so I've seen Killswitch Engage many times throughout the years, and I guess the last time I saw them was like 2016 or something. And Mike was wearing a knee sleeve, and even at that point I was 26. Yeah. And I went, I'm predispositioned to have bad knees. So like I saw that and went, all right, it can be done. Like this is good. Like this is rad.
Yeah, he had like because like I love Deadguy, I've said it, but they got on stage looking like a series of different versions of Stepdads, and like they blew everybody's face off. Tim, everybody there left going, well, I'm mad, but like that guy's real mad.
Right.
That guy's real mad. He's also probably like way smarter than me. Like, and I made sure, like I was like, Tim was walking around, and I was like, no, don't do it. Mm-hmm. Don't talk to him. You'll get off. Hey, Tim. Like, it's just not worth it. I would have become a tour story, and I didn't want that. Yeah, but man, I could go on for hours about this album. I know, I don't know if you guys are wrapping up. I don't want to keep you guys longer, but like, thank you guys for letting me talk about this one, because this is just, it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And like, I don't know anyone who I haven't introduced this to who isn't like, that's, I don't really typically like that kind of stuff, but that's a fucking ripper.
Before we move on to kind of the aftermath of this, Pat, I did want to, I messaged you about this on Instagram. I don't know how far you want to get into this, but Riot Stairs.
I can be brief.
Riot Stairs, the part with the snare and the hi-hat hits really brought me back to a band that you might be familiar with, Bears. How do you?
Oh yeah, very familiar. Yeah, I told him to do that.
You were like, hey, Rory, you probably never once listened to Deadguy, but there's this thing.
Oh, no, I never. See, that was my thing, is like, I knew that if I said, hey, it's like that part, instinctually, because we were 20 and like, we're going to do our own thing.
Yeah.
I knew that if I said that, it wasn't going to happen, because we didn't want to get pinned as like doing that.
Yeah.
But straight up, he was like, he was having a hard time. And I was like, hear me out. And it worked. Yeah, and because you brought it up, I can't sing. I don't have a high and I don't have a low. So if you listen to Bears, I'm just trying to do Tim. Like, that's all it is. It's just me trying to do Tim. Because I was like, I don't have range. I have a very lame, like, monotone voice. So I was like, well, I'm mad about student loans. I'll write a hardcore song about student loan companies. Tim would probably think that's cool. Like, it's like, that's, yeah, I'm a Tim Singer. I'm a just Tim Singer super fan. I love all his other bands. It was a thing of like, no one will know I'm doing this because it's Deadguy. I can get away with this. And then you caught me, and I was like, dude, it's been like 20 years and nobody's ever caught that. Nobody's ever caught it.
Yeah, I didn't even get it at first. It was just today, because I've been like, oh man, that's such like a screamo thing to do those. And I was like, no, that's not scream. That's one band. Like just today, I wasn't like, that's not a screamo thing. That's a fucking Bears thing.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I will open. I lifted lyrics. I'm not going to front.
Hell yes.
I took a turn of phrase and I was like, that fits. And then I was like, no one will know it's Deadguy.
And no one in that area would have known for sure. Maybe Chaz. I don't know.
We finally did it. We found a way to make him. We've summoned him.
Maybe the most interesting story of this band comes with the release and after the release of this album. Before the album is even released, they break up. The album comes out in November. In the documentary, it says they break up 3 months before the album comes out. So that makes it August, I think, is how math works. Essentially, after the record was recorded, before it was released, for some reason, it seems like the band decided that they were going to take maybe their first tour ever.
Oh,
from
God,
the way
no.
they talked about in the documentary. It seemed like they hadn't done any touring to that point. I don't know. But Keith secured a van, minibus is
There
what
you
it's
go.
called. And they went on tour. This tour, as anyone's first tour, it goes anytime you're in a band, you book your first tour, it always sucks. First tours are terrible. This one was no exception. For some reason, they went all the way from New Jersey to California, from the East Coast to the West Coast. They had
Gotta go.
They had booked shows out to the West Coast. They didn't book anything going back. Just a straight line to the West Coast. If you've never toured before, that's a terrible fucking idea. That is just stupid.
Guilty as charged.
When they got to California, they they went up to San Francisco, and then they had to double back, and then they went up to Seattle. I don't know what this was about, but they got some people to book last minute dates for them, but still they didn't really have anything from Seattle all the way back home. It seemed like only two of the people in the band had really saved up money to go on tour. Tim, having a grown-up job at the time, was one of them. Possibly Keith, even though he dropped money on a fucking minibus. But anyway, they get out to California. They make it up to Seattle. Tim Singer and Keith, and maybe Tim Nauman, are kind of venturing around the city. Chris Corvino and Dave Rosenberg don't have any fucking money and are kind of just mad and ready to go back to New Jersey. And at some point, Tim Singer says to Chris and Dave, "You're ruining our good time." Quote. That's a quote. And that kind of just breaks Chris Corvino and to some extent breaks the whole band. They get back together in Seattle after having spent the day apart, and then they start driving back to New Jersey, and they stop in Chicago to stay with.
That's such a long drive to be mad. Nobody farted and got a giggle or said something like your mom, you know what I mean? Nobody did any. That's a tough road to hoe, man.
Dude,
The line, it's 16 going on a road trip.
That was just with any show though. For 16, God, if Austin were here, the first time he got in a car with you guys and thinking, oh man, I'm going to a show, it's going to be great. Swindle's listening to NPR. Wyatt is doing whatever the fuck he's doing.
Windows are down. No one talks.
No one's talking. But the line, "You're ruining our good time." When I heard that for the first time, I went, that is chisel that on my fucking tombstone. That is such a good line. And so probably met with probably spoken with an intensity that could only be reflected on this record. Just in the van, I mentioned this to you before, two of the guys saved up good portion of money, whatever it was, from their jobs. 3 guys just said, fuck it, and threw it to the wind. And we've all
I just
done
got a credit card. That's how I did it.
Right. Like we've all done that where we're like, all right, I have X amount per day that I can afford to spend on myself, right? Food, whatever it is. But there's always this kind of combative nature, hey man, I'm low on this. Well, I might be able to help you, but then just being on a shitty tour, shows are wild, shows aren't going according to plan. Some are really good, most aren't. There's nobody showing up to them, and you get to the complete other side of the country that you live on at the almost at one of the most northernmost points of the Northwest, and you've just had it.
Yeah.
You're like, take me back to Jersey.
Don't book a tour that far out if it's your first fucking tour. My advice to you is don't do that.
My
Go
advice
regional.
is do it. Because if you can make that work, you know what I mean? Like if you can make that work, like then you're fine. Like I think like you have to eat shit, but you have to be prepared to eat shit. And like I don't know that some of the guys at Deadguy were like expecting it to eat that much shit. You know what I mean? Like not to be like holier than thou or like I've been on tour, but it's just like I've never done the all the way back with no shows back. I've done the all the way out and every show back got canceled. I've done that. And sometimes that's kind of a blessing because you're kind of like, so we're just gonna go home? Jackpot. You know what I mean? Like, you mean I don't have to live like shit for another week? I could just drive 12 hours and be home. I could be home by tomorrow. All right, but like fucking Seattle to New Jersey, man, that's like that's fucking wild.
So they stop in Chicago. Their man Tony Victory famously lives there. They get to shower for the first time in some amount of days and maybe even eat if they're lucky. Who knows? But the day after that, they make their way back to New Jersey. They play a show in Pennsylvania, and I think some of the guys realize like that's probably this band is fucking over. But they make it back to New Jersey. The day after they get back, they have some kind of like homecoming show or something in New Jersey. They all just kind of show up, play, and leave. And that is...
Don't do homecoming shows. Don't do it. All you bands out there, don't do it. The last thing you want to do when you get to your house, to your home city, is not just go to your house.
Right.
You don't want to get home and be like, fucking...
Now I got to play another fucking show.
I got to do this. Couldn't we have done this first? Couldn't we have started here? Like left on a good note. Now we got to do it. Fuck that, man. Don't do it. No. Words to the wise. Don't do it.
Yeah. They realized at that show that it was done for good. That lineup of Deadguy, that would be their last show together for some amount of time.
Based off of that, that lineup never technically played again. Like they didn't play, that lineup never played any of the songs off Fixation ever again. Like that was it. Like that was done. That was that lineup. It was done after that.
Because Tim wasn't, well, I'm sure you'll get to it, but the current lineup doesn't involve not Tim Singer. It's him, the bass player from this album. It's a different bass player.
Does not involve.
While on the tour, Tim Singer fell in love with Seattle while they were there for the day or whatever. Singer decides that he is going to move to Seattle. And Keith Huckins decides that he's going to join him. And Keith Huckins contacts all the members of Rorschach, include what I don't know Rorschach's names. I'll learn them when we do that episode. But Huckins said one of those dudes lives in fucking Germany. And he convinced this member of Rorschach that lives in Germany to move to fucking Seattle to start the band Kiss It Goodbye.
Good
That's
band.
fucking crazy. Yeah. I'm
Rad
sure
record.
at some point we'll also talk about Kiss It Goodbye, or that record at
We
least.
definitely will.
While even though Singer and Huckins have moved to Seattle and started a new band, the three remaining members of Deadguy keep on chugging along. Whether or not they wanted to, or Tony Victory had some strings that he was pulling to make him keep on going, who fucking knows? But Tim Nauman, moves.
Where's that
to
$6,000 friend now?
Well, if I gave him that band $6,000 and they didn't pay me back, I wouldn't be giving them $6,000 more. But Tim Nauman moves to vocals. Jim Baglino from Human Remains joins Deadguy to play the bass.
Crazy.
Yeah. And
Crazy.
Tom Yak joined to play guitar. The craziest thing, maybe the craziest thing about this entire episode is that Deadguy had a roadie. Why? That is just an insane thing for me to think about.
What do you mean fucking 16 had Austin? What are you talking about?
He wasn't setting up shit. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Austin Paulson was not setting up a thing.
Just setting you up to break your wrist that one time.
Right.
The amount of friends I had who were like, hey man, I'll do merch. And I was like, how much merch do you think we sell? Like,
Now, I have done that, but
like,
I did help move gear. I remember that.
Yeah.
That was great because I was just housed selling merch.
I mean, like if you, that's the thing is like,
housed.
if you can get, my thing is like, if one of us, like if you can snag a merch job for like a band that's like actually doing something, like one of my best friends in the world was a merch guy for, I don't want to name drop bands, but he was a merch guy for like real like touring bands 10 months out of the year. Like he was like, no, it's incredible. He's like, I get to go on vacation and like everything's paid for. I was like, yeah, but he's like, yeah, but I mean, yeah, you're in a van with 5 stinky dudes, but like it's vacation. It's barely work. I count t-shirts, man. But like bands at like that, I mean, when Deadguy was at that level, it's like, how much fucking slinging are you doing to where you need another guy? Plus, like, yo, that must have been a real awkward ride for that guy.
Yeah.
Because he was probably friends with everybody, and he's like, oh, come on, guys.
I gotta pick sides now.
Like, this is supposed to be. I think all you guys are ruining my good time.
That's actually, according to the documentary, that's kind of how that guy Tom Yak seems. It seems like that's kind of what his attitude was. He seemed like.
Wait, have we said the name of the documentary at all?
Not yet.
Oh,
no.
okay.
What was the statement that Tim made about joining the band? He's like, yeah, I joined Deadguy and I get a sandwich or something like that. He's like, yeah, I get sandwiches every day. Like, this is great. Like, best personality out of everybody on the documentary. Just like, this has been fun.
Yeah, every band needs the guy who's just like, isn't it cool that we're in a band? Isn't that cool? That's fun. Look at us.
With this lineup, Deadguy would release an EP in 1996 called Screamin' with the Deadguy Quintet. This is the only Deadguy material to this date that was recorded by anyone other than Steve Evetts. It was recorded by Steve Austin. Recorded at the same studio that Henry Rollins and the Rollins Band recorded End of Silence, and apparently the studio doubled as a strip club.
His interactions with strippers in a strip joint in 1991 are probably shit that I would pay money to watch right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the kids call it Stan. I'm a Rollins Band Stan.
Yes.
I put the worst Rollins Band stuff up against the best Black Flag Rollins stuff, and I'm like, pretty fucking rocking. Does it get a little chili peppers here and there? Maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe. But Rollins Band rips.
Into Silence that's another episode.
Kiss It Goodbye would release one full length with Tim Singer. Then Tim would leave the band. He kind of got disillusioned with the whole being in a band thing. He didn't feel like touring and sleeping on floors, and he was about to be in his 30s or in his 30s at that point. And in 1997,
did you guys? I'm so sorry. I don't want to interrupt, but so Kiss It Goodbye was in Revelation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Revelation Records used to do this thing where if you ordered records, they would just put in other records with your order sometimes as like pack-ins.
Yep.
I got like 6 copies of the Kiss It Goodbye.
That's amazing.
Of LP. I got like 4 copies of that, and like for me, like that, and like the Where Fear and Weapons Meet 7-inch. For like every order I did from Revelation for like a year, I get one of those as like a pack-in. Or like, what am I gonna fucking do with this? So Kiss It Goodbye, flying off the shelves.
And then Deadguy broke up in 1997. But that's not the end of our story. In 2019, Bill Saunders reached out to members of the band to create a documentary about this record that we've been talking about, Fixation on a Coworker. for the anniversary of the record. I don't know if it was the 25th or the 30th, but it ends up being a documentary about the full history of this band. The title of the documentary is Killing Music. In the recording of the documentary, there's there's a scene where they're all talking on Zoom, but then there's also a scene where they meet all in the same room and they even like play music together. This is the first time that all of these people had been in the same room together since 1995. In promoting the documentary, Deadguy plays some reunion dates, including the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest on the East and West Coast. I like almost said meal and battle like so hard. After the festival appearances in 2021, Deadguy alongside Man Alive Creative released a photography zine called Deadguy Reunion Service Manual. With the zine, they released a 7-inch record with an unreleased song that was recorded during the White Meat sessions called Body Parts, and an unreleased recording of Die With Your Mask On. In doing the practicing and the reunion shows for this, they I think Chris Corvino kind of puts it in everyone's ear that like they're gonna get fucking tired of just playing Fixation on a Coworker over and over. And in doing just that, this kind of comes to pass. They get bored of just doing these songs. This set, how many songs is it? 12? How many songs are on this record we talked about?
10.
There's 10 songs. 30. I think it's 37 minutes.
Yeah, 30. They get like 30 minutes.
30.
They get tired of playing the same 10 songs over and over again, so they start writing new material. A lot of this, surprisingly, is actually written by Dave Rosenberg.
Crazy.
I think because of getting back in touch with Steve Evetts, Dave has like up to 70 recordings maybe that he's just had. He sends Steve these recordings, and Steve is essentially like, these sound like Deadguy songs to me. Like, I don't know what you think you should be doing with them, but that's what you should be doing with them. I think a lot of those is what becomes the 2025 full-length Near Death Travel Services, which is a great fucking album. It was on my top 10 from last year, and I think it was in Dylan's also from our episode.
I think it's a record that only those guys can make.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a natural progression, which is weird, of just like, to me, this sounds, it came out in 2025, but if you were to tell me this was the next Deadguy record in 1999 or 2002, I would be like, oh yeah, sure, that's when it came out. Like, to me, it's just like, it's a lot of times when bands take a break and come back, like they decide they're going to be artists.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, that's fine. But like, I think a lot of times when a band does that, there's this thing of like, I don't think a band owes fans anything. This is how I feel. But it just seems like, I don't want to like throw other bands on the bus, but bands will take a long time between albums and then come back with one, and you're like, I mean, this is kind of like what I like about you guys. You know what I mean? And then, but like with this Deadguy release, I listened to it today again, and I'm just kind of like, man, this like only this group of people is going to make this album, is going to make music like this. This is the type of music that I don't think it's the only type of music that these 5 individuals can make. But I think when these 4, I should say, when these 4 to 5 guys get in a room, this is the only kind of music that they can make as a unit. Like, they're not going to do like it's not going to be a cock rock album. Like, something about those guys in the room, like, all you're ever going to get is Deadguy. And like, that's what I really, really appreciate about like that album, is like, it sounds like a natural progression. Doesn't sound forced. Doesn't sound like they're trying to sound like Deadguy. You know what I mean? It's just so genuine. And man, Tim's still real mad.
Still, yep. Angry as he's ever been.
That I wasn't gonna recommend it, but the Bitter Branches record that came out just a little bit earlier this year, like, it sounds like fucking Tim. It's like, oh, this could be a Deadguy record even.
Right.
Yeah, the Bitter Branches to me stuff is more like, what if it was, what if they, instead of being Black Flag, Tim was a Jesus Lizard?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it's way more drum and bass, and the guitar is kind of like almost like a droney, kind of like not necessarily stoner, but just like kind of the guitar is like, with Bitter Branches, to me, it's like if you could recognize the songs just by the drum and bass. If you just heard the drum and bass tracks, like, oh, this is a Bitter Branches song. But yeah, I mean, we don't have to deviate too far into that. But like, yeah, those are awesome. Those are fucking great records.
I was gonna say this most recent Deadguy release. You know, there've only been so many bands that have came back from a hiatus, a breakup, whatever it may have been, and have actually put something out that you can go, oh, this can be part of the lineage, right? I always kind of throw out Carcass. You know, they left with Swan Song, which isn't a great record, but then they come back with Surgical Steel, which is a fucking great heavy record. You know, we're talking about Deadguy here, and I've got a desk that's just a hodgepodge of like stickers I've had throughout the years because I don't fucking know what to do with them. And like right in front of me is the bumper sticker that I got with the Deadguy release, and it just says, "I'll feel better when you're not around." And it's just right in front of me, just dead center. And it's like, that's such a great record. It's hard to say that a band that released their last cohesive album in 1995 could come out with something in 2025 and still somehow emote the emotion of what everybody is feeling in 2025 about any and everything. You know, without being a fully topical band. Great release. You know, hopefully we get some more music at some point. Who knows? Maybe this is it, but fuck, what a great return to form.
It's, if this was the last thing they ever put out, I'd be like, good.
Yeah.
I'll
Great.
get back to that, but I was gonna say it. I think Tim is like not speed running, kind of the opposite. Slow running, being in bands with every single past or present member of Lifetime, like Bitter Branches.
It's funny.
he's in Bitter Branches with Dan Yemin, but Deadguy had like two members of Lifetime, so he's trying to round all of them up to be.
It's only a matter of time for Tim's out there being like, "Hey, Katrina."
Going back to maybe Deadguy releases, this bit was from an interview with Lambgoat that Dave Rosenberg did. I think the interview was maybe before the full length was even announced, but in that interview with Lambgoat, he did very specifically say that they were working on a split release with Pig Destroyer. So I don't know where that's at this point, them having released a full length since then. I don't know if that's still in the books or if they just have that stashed in the back somewhere, but there might be a split with Pig Destroyer somewhere along the way.
Is Pig Destroyer on Relapse?
They are.
Yeah.
And this new Deadguy's on Relapse, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I was wondering, I was like, well, maybe it got squashed because label complications, what have you. But
And now thinking about it, I don't think Pig Destroyer's released anything since Head Cage, right? Like 2018.
Pat, what do you think? Having wrapped up talking about this record, what do you think kind of the legacy of Fixation on a Coworker is?
I think if whatever music you like now, you can find it in some capacity on this album. Like if you like heavy music now, not like the deathcore, that kind of stuff where the, you know, not the beat down, breakdown stuff, but if you're into, like, if you're like, you know, the obvious ones are like, if you like Converge, but you've never checked out Deadguy, you should. If you like Botch, if you like Cave In, if you like All Else Failed, if you like Dillinger, like, go check out Cave In because it's there. But also, I think if you're like a hardcore, like a punk rock purist, I also think that there's going to be things about this album that you'll listen to and go, oh no, I dig that. I like that. To me, this album is like, it's just such a singular thing that so many other things have taken bits and parts of and made their identity in a weird way. That I just think that if you like heavy music, just give it a shot. You know, if you like something with distortion and a guy yelling, Just give it a shot. Like, don't try to be like, oh, I don't like that kind of stuff. It's like you'll probably like it because it's the best.
If you like people being mad, surprise, you'll like this record where everyone's fucking mad.
If you've ever been called into a meeting where somebody's asked you, if you've ever been called into a meeting where a guy in a suit is talking to you about something because another guy in a suit told him to talk to you about it instead of just talking to you directly, this album is for you. You'll like this album. If you've ever gotten a bonus check and gone, I don't know about that. I think I'm getting shafted on this. This album's for you. If someone's ever brought you into a room and been like, I know you sold $1 million worth of laptops last quarter, but you were only making like 15 calls a day. This album is for you. If you've ever had a boss,
just in general,
you ever had a mysterious equestrian-based occupation?
This now that you've gone through this, it kind of is. If you like the movie Office Space, you'll love this album.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
There it is.
You could just put Office Space montage over this album, and it's the best music video that's ever been made.
just a slow-mo of them wearing that fucking computer out.
Yeah. Watch Boiler Room in reverse while you listen to this album.
This is the point of the episode where we like to recommend what we've been checking out recently. I'll start off this time. I'm going to recommend the new single by the band Katie, Limitations of the Human Form. Katie is British chaotic hardcore, maybe emo violence band. I really like their last LP that came out in 2023. This song is from an upcoming release, I think full length, that I think is going to be titled Limitations of the Human Form. There's not really much details yet about it, including when it's going to be released, who is going to be putting it out, but they do have a new single.
So I got an old one and I got a new one. We'll start with the new one. The new single from Russian Circles, Empath. It's heavy, it's lumbering, it's got a point in the track that I actually did they go full on Morbid Angel? Like it just goes from mid-tempo to slow, and there's a level of heaviness all over this. If you're a fan of the band, you already know, like, this is very comparable to their Gnosis album from a few years back. I've been waiting for this. They are actually going to go on tour with Pelican and Primitive Man on varying dates. This shit is rad.
They're playing smaller rooms too.
They're playing Brooklyn Bowl. Or no, it's the other one. They're playing Eastside Bowl.
Yeah, Basement
East.
It
Basement East? Fuck, that'll be fun.
That's a smaller venue.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. And that's just.
Are you going to go to that?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're just dudes talking. I think I might go and come hang.
Because I'm going to do that and the Revocation show the week before. That is, I've been awaiting this band to release something new for quite some time, and I'm really stoked on that. Second one, old one. We mentioned it a lot in this episode. The Only Kiss It Goodbye album. She Loves Me, She Loves Me Not. Man, if Deadguy got visceral, and that's hilarious to even say because there's nothing not visceral about this Deadguy record. But if Deadguy got visceral, maybe listen to a little bit more post-metal, it's all there. This album makes me feel uneasy the entire way through. Deadguy, I'm angry at my boss. Kiss It Goodbye, I'm angry and I kind of want to put my head through a windshield. It's fucking gnarly sounding. And the fact that it's on Revelation Records is pretty fucking wild to me as a release. But it is, if you've never listened to that Kiss It Goodbye record, ignore the name for whatever reason and just go straight into it because it's a trip.
Quick ones from me. My buddy Nick has a ambient black metal keyboard music theme ambient thing. It's called Witch Bolt. It rips. He is putting out so much material all the time, so you can check that out. I'll send. I think you guys already have the link for that, so you can just throw that in there so people can check that out. It's awesome. Nick's a great guy, and also This Is Hell, one of my favorite straightforward hardcore bands. They had an EP come out earlier this year or earlier this summer called Born Suspicious. It is 5 songs. It's roughly 12 minutes long. Everyone's a banger. They haven't missed a beat. This is more of a return to, if you weren't really into their thrashier stuff, if you're more into, say, the stuff that came around, or like the Sundowning, or I think Vultures was the second full length. This is way more straightforward hardcore, not as much thrash stuff. So definitely check that out. Also, just read a book.
Agreed.
Just a book. Just read a book, please. Somebody read a fucking book. Those are my suggestions.
Thank you, Pat Fagan, for joining us. This has been the Riff Worship Pod. Hit us up on any social media platform at Riff Worship Pod. You can follow Dylan's fucking playlist on Apple Music, Hits from the Crypt. I don't know if we even keep the other playlist running or not, but Austin can let me know. Fuck him. For Pat, for Dylan, not for Austin. Fuck him. This has been Riff Worship. Bye.
He's gonna murder us. He's gonna drive.
I think it's hilarious how the universe stepped in on that last one when you tried to dunk on him and he fumbled through. Fuck him.
He's gonna drive to both of our homes and just beat us senselessly with whatever he's got.